Around the World Lit Audio. Crime and Punishment by Fyodor Dostoevsky. Part 4. Week 7. Chapters 1 to 3. Full narration script. Channel intro. Welcome to Around the World Lit Audio, the greatest novels ever written, from every corner of the world, in English. New chapter every week, free to listen. Chapter recap. In week 6, Raskolnikov returned to Sonia and told her everything: the pawnbroker, Lizaveta, the theory, the money under the stone. She did not recoil. She said, "You must confess." He asked if she would go to Siberia with him. She said yes without hesitation. Svidrigailov offered money in a tavern. Raskolnikov refused. Then on the landing outside his room a stranger looked at him, and said one word: murderer. He understood, for the first time with complete clarity, that he had built an argument about extraordinary men, and discovered that he was, simply, a man. Part 4. Chapters 1 through 3. Part 4. Chapter 1. Porfiry visits. Porfiry came to him. This was different from the previous two encounters, different in the most significant possible way. The previous meetings had taken place on Porfiry's territory, in his office, with the implicit authority that a man has when he receives you in his own space, and controls the furniture and the tea, and the sequence of the conversation. This time Porfiry came to Raskolnikov's room, his small, shabby room with the low ceiling, and the sofa and the particular smell of poverty, and sat down in it as a guest. This changed the dynamic in ways that Raskolnikov could feel, but not immediately analyze. Porfiry was, if possible, more pleasant than he had been in the office. He was warm, almost informal, with the quality of a man making a social call rather than conducting an investigation. He expressed concern about Raskolnikov's health. He asked about his mother and sister. He made observations about the weather. Then he said, "I want to speak to you honestly, as one person to another, without the official context." Raskolnikov said, "Go ahead." Porfiry said, "I know." He said it simply, without emphasis, the way you say something that both parties have known for some time, and one party is finally deciding to acknowledge directly. He said, "I know, and you know that I know, and we have both known this, for long enough that the pretense has become more exhausting than the truth." Raskolnikov said nothing. Porfiry said, "I do not have enough evidence to arrest you." "Not yet. The evidence I have is circumstantial, suggestive, but not conclusive. A clever lawyer could create reasonable doubt, and reasonable doubt is enough." He paused. He said, "But I also know that you know this cannot continue. I have watched you for weeks. I have watched what the weight of this does to a person, how it operates on the mind, how the pressure of the unconfessed accumulates, until it becomes heavier than the consequences of confession would be." He leaned forward slightly. He said, "Come to me. Come voluntarily. Present yourself and tell the truth. If you come to me voluntarily, the court will treat you differently than if I arrest you. The sentence will be lighter. The process will be different. And you will be free of what you are carrying now, which is, I think you know this, destroying you." Raskolnikov looked at him. Porfiry said, "I am not your enemy. I have never been your enemy. I find you interesting, genuinely interesting, in the way that certain cases are interesting because the person at their center is more complex than the average. I would rather see you survive this than not." Raskolnikov said, "And if I don't come?" Porfiry said, "Then I will continue building my case. And I will build it. These things take time, but they do not remain unresolved. I will build it, and eventually what I have will be enough, and you will be arrested rather than presenting yourself voluntarily, and everything that follows will be worse." He stood. He said, "Think about it. I am not rushing you, but don't take too long." He left. Raskolnikov sat in his room after Porfiry left and felt, for the first time in months, something that was not the specific quality of a trapped animal. Something different. Part 4. Chapter 2. Svidrigailov's Revelations. Svidrigailov appeared again. He appeared the way he always appeared, without quite being summoned, in a place Raskolnikov did not expect him, with the particular quality of someone who has arranged to be present because presence serves his purposes without advertising what those purposes are. They talked. Svidrigailov talked about his dead wife, about Marfa Petrovna, who had died under circumstances that were officially natural and privately somewhat complicated, who appeared to him, periodically as a ghost in a way he described with the same detached curiosity he brought to everything. He was not disturbed by the ghost. He found her, in death as in life, mildly interesting company. He talked about Dunya. This was the conversation Raskolnikov had been dreading, the specific conversation in which Svidrigailov's intentions became fully clear. He said that he still loved Dunya. He said that loved was perhaps not the right word, that what he felt for her was something more like a fixed point, around which the rest of his existence had organized itself, which had the quality of love, without necessarily being love in any conventional sense. He said he intended to speak to her. Raskolnikov said, "She will not see you." Svidrigailov said, "She may feel differently when she understands what I know." This was the specific moment when the conversation shifted from unpleasant to dangerous. The implication was clear. Svidrigailov knew, or knew enough, or suspected enough, that he could make the implication, and let Raskolnikov fill in the rest. Raskolnikov felt the walls again. Svidrigailov said, "I am not a bad man, despite appearances. I have done things I should not have done. I am aware of this. But I am also capable of generosity, considerable generosity, toward people I have harmed and toward people I want to help. If things were arranged differently, if certain relationships in your family were arranged differently, I think I could be very helpful to several people." He was not threatening. He never threatened directly. He simply described a landscape of possibility, in which his presence was beneficial, and his absence was less so, and left Raskolnikov to map the terrain himself. Raskolnikov went home. He sat on his sofa, and thought about Dunya with the specific fear of a brother, who understands that his sister is in danger from a man he cannot directly confront without revealing what that man knows about him. He was trapped from a new direction. Part 4, Chapter 3, The Meeting in the Room. Svidrigailov arranged to meet Dunya. He did this through a letter, a careful letter, claiming to have information about her brother that she needed to hear, framed as concern rather than menace. Dunya, who was intelligent and who did not trust Svidrigailov, but who could not ignore a letter that claimed knowledge about Raskolnikov, agreed to meet him in a private room. She came armed. This was Dunya, a woman who had survived the Svidrigailov household, and understood what kind of man she was dealing with. She brought a small pistol she had obtained, with the practical foresight of someone who anticipated that a private meeting with this specific person might require options. Svidrigailov received her with the warm courtesy he brought to every encounter. He told her about her brother. He told her carefully, not everything, but enough. He described what he had observed, what he suspected, what he believed to be true about Raskolnikov and the events of several months ago. He watched her face as he spoke and saw, in its changing expression, the confirmation that what he was saying was not entirely news to her, that she had suspected something, had been afraid of something, and was now having her fear named. She was, throughout, completely composed. He said, "I love you. I want to help your brother. These two things are connected. If you were to allow me to help you, to take the position in your life that I want, I would use every resource I have to protect Raskolnikov from what is coming." She said, "You are asking me to buy my brother's safety with myself." He said, "I am asking you to consider whether what I am offering is worse than the alternative." She said, "Yes, it is worse than the alternative." He moved toward her. She raised the pistol. She fired. The shot missed, barely, the ball grazing close enough that Svidrigailov felt it pass. He stopped. He looked at her with the expression of a man who has encountered something he had not accounted for and finds it, despite himself, admirable. She attempted to reload. He moved to the window. He said, "You cannot reload quickly enough, but I am not going to touch you." He said it with complete sincerity. He had been wrong about her. He had assessed her as someone who could be persuaded and discovered she was someone who could not. This error was his own and he accepted it in the way he accepted everything, without drama, as an established fact. He opened the window. He said, "I have some arrangements to make, things I intended to do regardless of how this conversation went. I will leave you now." He left through the door. Dunya stood in the room with the pistol, and the specific stillness of a person who has just done something they were not certain they could do, and has discovered they could. Raskolnikov did not know any of this had happened until later. When he found out, when Dunya told him, in the flat direct way of a sister reporting a fact to a brother, he felt several things simultaneously, none of which he could have named separately: relief, horror, and the particular quality of a man who understands that his situation has become both better and worse in the same moment. Better because Svidrigailov had apparently retreated. Worse because a man who has retreated from one avenue does not necessarily abandon his larger intentions. He went back to his room. He lay on his sofa. He thought about Porfiry's words, "Don't take too long." Chapter transition. You have reached the end of Part 4, Chapters 1 through 3 of Crime and Punishment, by Fyodor Dostoevsky. In the next episode, Svidrigailov makes his final moves, the ones that reveal what kind of man he actually is beneath the pleasant surface and the oblique implications. And Raskolnikov moves toward the decision that has been building since the first chapter, the decision that Sonia has been waiting for, that Porfiry has been anticipating, that the entire architecture of the novel has been pointing toward from its first page. The next episode is available next week. Subscribe to Around the World Lit Audio so you never miss a chapter. A new episode arrives every week.